Welcome to the Shikama Live Show with your host, Shikama. I want to talk about an issue that will really probably offend a lot of people because they believe so deeply in it. And I want to talk about the state of religion on this planet, the entire planet. But specifically, I want to speak about the Roman invention of Christianity. And why do I say Roman invention? Because they completely took the entire story, the African story of Horu, put a white face on it, took all of the scripture, all of the stories, and the entire religion, whole cloth from Africa, and out popped this Serapis Christo invention, which was invented 600 years after the original Serapis Christo, which we know today as White Jesus. Now, the mind today reels against this because of the indoctrination of millions of humans into believing that this religion somehow is real and that all the other 5,500 and something religions around the world are false. And it's even taken the Hebraic, the African Hebraic religion also, changed and adopted into the Ashkenazi Jews as a sort of brother or sister religion. I don't know what sort of gender you give to that. But here's the truth of the matter, and now my previous video concerning this was directed towards the descendants of Africans. This is for all of the European descendants as a tool of the arm of the king, as the newly founded Christian religion, allegedly Christian religion, function as they elevated themselves to be equal to royalty without any sort of birthright, unlike the feudal system that existed at the time. Yes, even in Rome. It was their duty to go to various lands and conquer the people mentally, erase all semblance of their own culture. It is the avenue of empires to erase the local culture. The idea that we embrace the culture of everybody, which is supposedly what the United States is built on, was unheard of before. The people who call themselves British today, which is a misnomer, the actual Britons were an actual people with the same blood, and they were wiped out by both the Romans and the Germans, and there's almost no existence of them anymore on the planet. And that's just evidence of how things operated, at least in Europe. In Europe, it was completely modus operandi, you know? Africa had many empires, and a lot of the tribes that added to the empire did not lose their own personal culture. It's just that the empire covered where they lived also. And if you don't know that Africa had empires when Europe was running around in loincloth. So this whole idea that white people are superiors is a modern invention. And it's only a couple of hundred years old, really. It's not 600 years old as a lot of people want to say. It's literally a couple of hundred years old. And the notion that black people are inferior, that is truly something modern invented. Because Africa did in fact invade Europe and rule over Europe for centuries. So this notion that Africa was inferior is a modern invention, probably in revenge of being conquered by Africa. But Africa and Europe were always on each other. So it's nothing new. Before a few centuries ago, there was nothing to Europe to conquer. The entire land that we call Western Europe now was just barbarians. They had nothing, they had no culture, they had no identity, they had nothing, really. Now, the Roman Catholic set upon these barbarians and conquered them mentally, backed up then by the Roman legions, who then tried to conquer all of Europe. They were unsuccessful with the northern barbarians. We call them now Sweden and Switzerland, those places. For whatever reason, probably the winters were terrible and the Romans gave up. But the impetus of this video is that the church destroyed and made it a practice to destroy all local religion, all local customs, all local culture in Europe. Destroyed. Destroyed, destroyed, destroyed. Why do we not know anything about the Mayans? Why do we not know anything about the Aztecs? Europeans landed when they were thriving. Now, how is it that all of a sudden nobody can read it, because when the church came over, passed laws that they could not even speak their own language. How's that? The Jesuits, the military branch of the church, and now a Jesuit Pope sits on the throne, the Holy See of Rome. And people are just, oh, Jesus is Lord. Jesus is Lord. You didn't even know Jesus. Your God was Thor. Your God was Mother Nature. I don't know the name. Gaia. I don't even think that's the proper word. I think that's an African word. All of the gods of Europe completely vanquished, eradicated the entire religions. So not only is it amazing to me that we have Black Americans worshiping a Roman god, but even you, white people, you Europeans, everything about you was destroyed. We come from the Germans, we come from the Gauls, we come from the British, which is no more. So you're not actually British, you're something else. You're German, more than likely. I know you want to say you come from Britain, but even the Irish and the Scottish, what is it? They were conquered and intermingled with is that the proper term for it? With the Germans. And then the Gauls came and claimed the throne of England and were at war with the Germanic tribes for centuries, claiming the throne. And you have Africans who are also a part of the throne of England. I'm sure you probably don't know that. And the Spanish, of course. But the real truth of the matter is, your own history, your own culture was also destroyed. Everybody's amazed at how totally Black Americans' culture, history, everything was destroyed on purpose, but so are Europeans. You're not Christians. You come from Thor or somebody, or Zeus, or the All-Father that lives in Ragnarok. And now they want to belittle your religion to such a degree to call it a mythology. Oh, that's myth. Then what the hell is Christianity? You have a God that's a mathematical equation, 3 and 1, which is sort of Hinduism. You don't want to say that. It's polytheism. 3 gods in one. It's polytheism. All of my Indian subscribers or Indian viewers will attest to the fact that 3 gods in one is almost directly one of the Hindu gods, or several of the Hindu gods. But the reality is that the original story of Jesus was not a god. Jesus was a prophet of God. He wasn't directly linked to God the All-Father, which smacks of who? It smacks of the Germanic tribe religions, the All-Father. But you don't know enough of history to even know this sort of stuff. You just go with whatever you've been told. Just like I said in the other video, that black people just go with what they are told. Whatever their mother told them, whatever their father told them, that's what they went for. But it's so blatantly obvious that that's not what Africans worshipped. It's Eastern Africa in philosophy, first of all. And there are a lot of Africans or African scholars who say, well, the reason that Africans descendants accept the religion so much is because it smacks of what they worshipped in the blood. But Western Africans did not worship the Egyptian religion at all. In fact, I've done videos showing you the various gods from the different nations in Africa. A lot of Black Americans now identify with the Ghanaian religions and the stories of their gods, which is now being filtered through after all of this time. Finally, it's coming out. Oh, Africa had religions. Africa had gods. Of course they did. They want to talk about everybody else's gods, but I mean, we know, a lot of us know Native American gods more than we know African gods. How ridiculous is that? But the Roman Catholic Church made it a habit to go to a land, conquer it, destroy all semblance of culture. Do you actually think the French spoke French before? No. That's a bastardization of Latin, right? So is Spanish. So is Italian. It's not even your own tongue. You're not even speaking your own language. So I get white people coming into my video talking about why are descendants of Africa worshiping a Roman invention. And they're talking about, oh, Jesus is Lord. Hey, hold up. Hey, you're also worshiping a Roman invention. That was not your own culture, was not your own history. I believe that history is important. I believe your culture, your own culture, is important. I think it's terrible that you go along to get along. I think it's awful. I think that's an awful thing. I don't want everybody like me. Super good looking, a genius, huge penis. Girls throw themselves as I walk down the sidewalk. Can do engineering, can do finance, can do economics, speak several languages. Have servants. Have a manservant. Follow me everywhere. Wouldn't the world be boring if everybody were like me? Yes. We need fat, unmuscular people too. We need women with breasts of different sizes, butts of different shapes. In all seriousness, the world would be boring if everybody were the same. The whole idea of the United States is that we have a melting pot. That means that you have to have something to bring to the table. You can't just say, hey, I'll have some of that turkey and that sweet potato pie and black-eyed peas, which we got from the slaves. Isn't that interesting that Thanksgiving is mainly African originated dishes? Well, we already know that Thanksgiving was supposedly the Native Americans feeding the starving quote-unquote pilgrims. And I won't get into the satanic origin of the American pilgrims. But you didn't bring anything to the table. You don't bring anything to the table when you come to the United States, and you're just some carbon copy of I'm a white person and I'm a Christian and I speak English. And I have absolutely no idea about my ancestry because white is superior. You're as much of a victim of white superiority as black people. Because the whole white superiority thing is that you're now a carbon copy of every other white guy or white girl to date, right? You're not actually German and Scot. You're just white. That's why it's so ridiculous for a lot of you to try and repeat these cultures that no longer really exist. And as time goes on, if you look at Europe, they're losing what little tiny culture is left. The French are probably the only ones who are really holding on to their past, their ancestry. As they go into the future, with the political systems that are coming about, this whole one world government, you're all going to be white supremacy carbon copies of white boys and white girls. Just put a stamp on you as you're born. Go. Okay, here we go. Here's white guy number 5 billion. Here's white girl 5,000,000,001. I invite you to study your European history. I invite you to seek out, really do your entire family tree, and then through your family tree, look at your history and understand that Roman Catholicism is not it. And what did the Catholics destroy? It's like those love songs, you know, that the women and black men sing, where they say, well, I was Shaniqua before I met you, I'll be Shaniqua when you leave. Okay, you were German barbarian before the Catholics came. You existed all the way up until that point. There was nothing quote unquote wrong with you up until that point. Why now is there all of a sudden something wrong with you? And what kind of God would exist that created all of the creatures, all of mankind, but all of a sudden say, oh no, these people who live over here, they're wrong. They're completely wrong. But they worship a God too. Yeah, that's not me. They're completely wrong. It's an impossibility. And it was only because of the invention of travel and the wish to go conquer other lands other than your own for greed purposes, the Roman Empire and the African empires for that matter, or the Asian empires for that matter, existed simply out of greed. I want to control people. But they live in this valley over that mountain. I mean, we'll just die just trying to get to them. Doesn't matter, go get them, go conquer them. But what will that accomplish? They're in that valley, in that mountain. They've lived there for thousands of years. They don't really do much of anything. I think some other barbarians come and trade with them occasionally, which the Vikings were traders. They weren't big, huge conquerors. Well, of course, you know, all of the American history channels will make you think of otherwise. Oh, the barbarians, they went around beating people over the head and stealing their women. There was trade between the Viking areas and Russia. It's probably why Russia is white. I don't know. What do I know? But I invite you to go look at your entire family tree, see all of the cultures that was destroyed by the Roman Catholic Church. And there was nothing wrong with your God. There was nothing wrong with the gods that your ancestors worshipped. Absolutely nothing. This supposedly Christian God is no more real than the gods that you worshipped. And as a matter of fact, I have found in studying religions, which is something that the actual Catholic Church does a lot of, I probably have studied far more religions coming from the Roman Catholic instructions than probably every other religion alive, because we actually have to learn about other religions. Isn't that a oxymoron? But it's so funny that these Protestant religions don't do that. Oh no, you're going to hell if you worship this God over here. And all of the entire planet is going to hell because they haven't said the word Jesus. Well, that whole notion is called marketing. I know this sounds blasphemous to you, but if I invented a religion and I said, you can actually worship any other religion that you want to, how long would my religion last? It wouldn't last very long at all. So I have to put internal marketing into the religion. The internal marketing is, you must worship Jesus. Anybody who does not worship Jesus, bad things are gonna happen to them. Ergo, vis-a-vis, concordantly, you must worship Jesus, and you have to spread this idea, this internal marketing, to other people to get them to worship Jesus. But these Africans over here are worshiping their God, and they're doing fantastic. Have you seen them? Have you seen the African cloth that they make? It's fantastic. Yes, destroy all of that crap. And we got to make sure that they don't even understand anymore of how fantastic they were. What about these Germans over here? They're worshiping the whole Thor and company. They're doing great. They have farms spreading as far as I can see. Then you have these people over here that have like tulips all over the place. Beautiful land. Yeah, destroy all of that. They can't be doing that. We have to make sure that Christianity survives. When I say that there's 5,000 religions, that means that there's 5,000 religions other than Christianity, all being worshipped today. Religions, full-fledged religions. And I'm not talking about the Hollywood mess. What do you call that stuff? Where they believe in aliens created whatever. 5,000 other religions. And you believe yours is right simply because of where you were born. And the Catholic Church destroyed all semblance of every other religion. I go to the story of the Incas. If you look at the Incas, the actual Incas themselves were amazing. You know that you go to the university and you learn engineering, chemistry, medicine. These guys learned all of that, all at once. Their brains were such that they learned languages within days. Within days. Okay, you're not impressed by that? We have Africans who held entire libraries in their brain, verbatim, word for word, just from having it repeated to them. Oral history. And there are scholars who will tell you oral history is superior to written history because written history doesn't tell you the connotations of what the words actually mean. You people who are on the internet right now know this. How many times have you written something to somebody, they got offended and declared you their enemy? Or worse, you wrote something to somebody and they thought you were proposing marriage. They're over your house knocking on the door with flowers. Oral history, superior. And that was all across Africa, everywhere. Not just Egypt. That's from the tip, all the way from Egypt, all the way to South Africa. They talk about we don't use but 10% of the brains. No, the modern man probably only uses 10% of the brain because the Roman Catholics destroyed all of that stuff from everywhere. Entire philosophies written by children in Asia because of the Asian way of thinking. Entire philosophies. They're just all by children, by teenagers. And you're upholding this mess. Yes, you white people, you're upholding this mess. Something that destroyed your own culture, your own history. America doesn't have a culture. Doesn't have a history. It has a history of bloodshed, of massacring both black people and Native Americans. Is that your history? Is that what you're so proud of? From sea to shining sea? So, oh, Jesus, say that 10 times fast. That's your history? And then you brought the Asians over here and built the railroad along with black people. And murdered all of them too? Treated them like dogs? Is that the history? It's a terrible history. You don't have a culture. And then you borrow from black culture and then beat the hell out of black people. And call them less than human. And that's something that you should think about. Probably 60% of your day is exercised doing black cultural stuff. From the history, during slavery, all the way up until now. We still have black slave culture still impacting our society as of now. Whites did not want to adhere to the European ways of living. They wanted something completely brand new, and they got it in the United States. And no group put out more cultural value. Have you played any of these like civilization games, and they'll have one of the resources is cultural, and the culture impacts the other people, and the culture is so good that the other people will adopt that culture. It's in the games, and that's exactly what Africans in the United States has been doing for centuries now. What, 2 centuries now? Putting out culture because they come from a rich area of nothing but culture. Everything from the waking all the way until the sleeping. But they are demeaned and called all sorts of horrible names and treated all sorts of horrible ways and murdered in the streets. I think if white people went back and researched their own history and their own culture, it would heal the emptiness that's in their own hearts. And I believe that there's an emptiness in white people in the United States. This is just about the United States. Europe, you have your own problems. The impact is the same. You lost your culture too, but you're still living in the land of your forefathers, so some of it is not lost. Anyway, what do you think? You can disagree with me. This is an intellectual channel. And let me say that right now before anybody gets any different. This is an intellectual channel. You can agree, you can disagree with me, you can discuss your opinions on my channel. Don't be ugly. Don't call names. Now, a lot of my videos are made due to the fact that I've studied history and I have a political science degree and I have a master's in public administration and manipulating people, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I've had African studies, actual African studies, not just like black people are great. No, talking about in this era, this is what happened in Africa, blah, blah, blah. I've studied Egyptology, the whole 9 yards, everything. So if you want to discuss something in the comments, fantastic. Don't be afraid to voice your own opinion. And if your opinion is the KKK is the best thing ever, that's not really an opinion. That's just being stupid. No, seriously, this is stupid. And the whole white is the best, I already spoke on that. It's not the best. That just creates white supremacy affects white people. Your own culture is destroyed by white supremacy. Your own uniqueness You being German, French, Dutch, British, English, Scottish, Irish is completely destroyed, and white people are the best. No, who's the white person that is the model or the example of white people being the best? Trust me, it's not you. It's not you, Mr. Irish guy. It's not you, Mr. Scottish guy. It's somebody else. And it's all coming from on top to destroy all of us peasants. Me included, yes. I may be of royal blood, but I'm treated like a peasant, so I'm a peasant, right? Right? Anyway, intellectual channel. Leave me a comment. Subscribe so you can have your fill of hearty discussions. I'll try and respond. I have lots and lots and lots and lots of comments that I deal with on an hourly basis. I can't get to everybody, but if you say something really fantastic, I'm sure to comment on it. Thank you for watching the Shikama Live Show.